Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how
He's alive!
Welcome to where the weird ones are.
Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out.
Powerful figures in Hollywood as well as powerful politicians who are in fact not human. They're reptiles or they're lizards or perhaps extraterrestrials.
I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.
Let's get weird.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but you probably already knew that, and if you didn't, now you do. Today's episode is with Mr. Ronald Murphy Jr. I have to say, this guy is super intelligent. He knows a lot of shit, and he could talk to you about just about anything. He's very well researched in history. Actually, I met him at Squonkapalooza in Johnstown, Pennsylvania in August, and he went into this whole thing about Johnstown and the history of Johnstown and the floods and all that. And I was just like, damn, this guy's fucking intelligent. Like, he knows some shit. But yeah, so we today we talk about some ghost lights, we talk about dinosaurs, we talk about history. It was a fun conversation. We had issues connecting for a while because when we met at Squonkapalooza, we decided that we both I asked him to come on if he'd be interested in being on the show, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I'd love to." Super nice guy. He's written a ton of books. So if you are feeling inclined to do so, you should look him up and find his books. He's a good dude. Really like him a lot. I really enjoyed this conversation. So, with that being said, literally today, I am on my way to North Carolina, and it'll be a good fucking time. So if you're interested because tomorrow is going to be Encounter Quest. If you're not doing the meet and greet with the speakers tonight, or if you weren't interested in that, definitely, that's definitely okay. But yeah, Encounter Quest is tomorrow. Be there, because I will be there. If you're in the Hamlet, North Carolina area, we'd love to see you. I'm going to have hot sauce and t-shirts and stickers. So yeah, come hang out, check out the speakers if you want to. If you it might be today might be your last chance for tickets. You might be able to get tickets at the event. I'm not 100% sure on that. So yeah, if you're in the Hamlet, North Carolina, please come hang out with us. We'd love to have you. Other than that, man, the week has gone by so flipping fast, and I'm super excited. 40 Fest is in June 8th. That's also coming up really quick, also vending that. And then Cryptid Fest in Raynham, Massachusetts, where I will be vending and speaking. And I am considering vending at CryptidCon this year. CryptidCon's actually on my birthday this year, so that'd be pretty dope to do something that I enjoy doing on my birthday. And traveling. I like traveling. So also haven't really figured out when I'm gonna do vacation with the kids yet, so or where. I should say. We were gonna do Niagara Falls, but I don't know if I'm gonna do that. Might go somewhere else, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Anything is possible. So, but yeah, all right, man. I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. Please like, follow, share, subscribe. Um, Leave a rating and review if you feel so inclined to do so. I would love to hear from you. Actually, got a review from Zoe. I don't have my phone on me right now to read it to you, so I'll read it to you in next Wednesdays on Karen's episode. So yes, like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating or review and a review. I'd love to hear from you, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, or you can even leave a rating and review on the website. The more, the merrier on the website. I will say that I would love some more ratings and reviews there for the show. But yeah, you can get the blog there. The merch is there if you're interested in merch. So the website is where the weird ones are podcast.com. I can't believe I totally spaced out on that. Freaking just my mind's going a mile a minute. I just trying to get everything ready, make sure I'm not missing anything for the trip to North Carolina. So, yeah. Yeah, patreon.com/weirdos only. If you're interested, it's only $5 a month. If not, I'm still happy that you're here listening to the regular shit. But with Patreon, you get Conspiracy Tuesday, story time, guest spots that I do, and a free coffee mug. And you get the regular episodes too, but you get them like a day early, sometimes 2 days early, depending on how freaking froggy I'm feeling. So, but if you don't want to be a Patreon member, that's totally fine. It's not a big deal. If you want to support financially, buying merch definitely helps financially. Not that I need it, but even if you guys don't support me financially, I'm still going to do this show because I love it. I really enjoy talking to people about this weird shit. So I'm just going to keep on keeping on, mother truckers. All right. That was a shout out to Total Conundrum, by the way. If you don't know, now you know. So, anyways, I really hope you enjoyed today's episode with Braun and you go check him out, show him some love. Phenomenal dude. Yeah. So, let's get the fuck into it, shall we?
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Weird. Get weird.
What's up, party people? Welcome to another episode. I have Ron Murphy, who's an author and paranormal investigator. I actually met him at Squonkapalooza back in August of 2023, and we talked for like a good 20 minutes, and it was really fascinating. He's very knowledgeable about things. He told me like this whole thing about Johnstown in Pennsylvania, and it was super interesting. And I was like, you know what? I got to get his card, and I got to get him on the show at some point. We tried a couple times. We had some technical difficulties, but lo and behold, we are finally here. So, Ron, if you don't mind, saying hi, letting everybody know a little bit about who you are and what it is you do and where they can find you in your work.
Hey, it's my pleasure to be here, and you are correct. This is about our third go around trying to get this. So I will tell everybody first off, I'm not very technologically advanced. However, in the past 2 weeks, I did upgrade my phone to the point now where I think it's almost compatible with the 21st century. So that's a good thing, right? So now things will be moving a lot smoother and everything. So yeah, my name's Ron Murphy. I live in Western Pennsylvania. Most of my research is done in and around the Chestnut Ridge area. I did indeed meet you at the Squonkapalooza Festival up in Johnstown, the first one ever of its kind. And I hope you're back there again because I've been asked to speak again this year coming up. So hopefully we cross paths again. But yeah, so I've been fascinated ever since I've been a kid about things that go bump in the night and strange lights in the sky and everything. So, as a child of the 70s and 80s, so was, in search of, watching all the classic programs, Leonard Nimoy, as the narrator. It was a great time to be alive. And I took that kind of curiosity, that innocent curiosity, with me to adulthood, and that's why we're here together talking tonight.
Nice. That's awesome. Do you have a website or anything like
I
that for your
don't.
books?
Yeah, I'm having one built. So, again, not technologically advanced. So, you can reach me on Amazon, of course, Ronald L. Murphy
Okay.
Jr. And also, you can get me on Facebook, Ronald L. Murphy Jr. or Ronald Murphy Jr. One's an author page and one's a friend page. So feel free to like me or friend me or whatever. That'd be great. Or I'll give you my email address as well too. So it's Ronald L. Murphy Jr. at yahoo.com. Ronald L. Murphy Jr. at yahoo.com. If you want to talk, that would be great. I love to exchange information. You can order my books through there as well too. So multiple ways of getting in touch with me, just not quite up to the website part yet.
Well, I hope do you have somebody that's like teaching you how to do the website and stuff like that, or are you just giving it to over handing it over to somebody?
I'm probably going to hand it over to somebody. I have
Okay.
had websites in the past, and I will tell you that because I'm so if there's ever a zombie apocalypse, you don't want to be around me because I really cannot do anything functional in this world. So I had one, and the moderator that I had hired to take care of it wasn't doing anything. So basically, it crashed and
Oh,
burned because it does take a lot to get those things running. So right
for sure.
now, I'm just simply relying on somebody who says they're going to get it done, and then they will monitor it after that. So that's what we're doing right now,
Okay.
my friend. Yeah,
Nice, nice.
yeah,
Well, I look forward to it. Because when I saw you at in Johnstown, you had like a whole like rack of books,
I do.
um, uh,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
your own.
And since that time, I think I've put out three more books since that time, in about a year.
Wow.
Yeah. So Small Town Monsters got a hold of me. I've been doing some work with Small Town Monsters, and I wrote a book about Earthlights. And I did a program for them a couple years ago called Sasquatch Uncovered the Ridge. And on episode 2, where we were doing some Sasquatch research, we started encountering these anomalous balls of light that were following us through the woods. And unlike a lot of times, this actually caught on camera, which was amazing. So we do have video documentation of that. You can watch that. It's actually on YouTube. So Small Town Monsters. It's called Spectral Bigfoot, Episode 2, Sasquatch Uncovered the Ridge. And ever since that encounter, I've been trying to make some sense about what we saw. And I wrote a book about Earthlights. It's called Lights in the Mist, and it's my research and trying to struggle about what we actually saw.
Okay. That's interesting.
Mhm.
And what can you do you mind describing it a little bit
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
in depth?
So as we were in the woods, it was being photographed. It was being filmed. So you really have to do whenever being photographed, you have to throw almost everything out there. So what
Uh-huh.
would usually take you hours, you have to condense into minutes so people understand how this research goes. A lot of people thought that it made us look like fools, how trolls are on the internet
Oh
pages
yeah.
there. But we were
Yeah,
trying
they're
to
ruthless.
That's right. So, but we were basically trying to show the average person who doesn't go out into the field what research looks like. So we were knocking on trees, doing calls and things like that. And eventually we did get one call back. It was a very faint but captured on film howl, a very low howl. And we didn't think much of it because it was so faint, and we can't say, oh, that was a Bigfoot, anything like that. It could have been a coyote. But almost immediately after that, we start hearing what sounds like wind chimes. And I'd never experienced this before. We hear these wind chimes in the woods, and there's nothing in the woods. And then following hard upon the sound of the wind chimes, we see three lights moving through the woods. It looked like somebody was holding either a very bright cell phone or possibly even lanterns, but they had the cadence to them. They were going back and forth. It looked like somebody was carrying them. And there was probably about 9 researchers out that evening. And again, this was being filmed for television. And I said to my one researcher, I said, that's obviously the other people in the
Hey guys, I'm Tara.
And Mara.
And together we are Scary Tales and Serials. We are 2 best friends, ghost hunters, and moms who know all too well that mama ain't easy. So we do this to relax and unwind. We communicate with spirits because, let's face it, they're the only ones that truly listen anyway. If you like the paranormal, all things spooky, true crime, and downright murderous tales, then you're in the right place. Join us on our spooky adventure. Each episode, we tell you a story and use humor and some great banter to keep the craziest stories light. We share tales of our ghost hunting adventures and hot takes on some of the wildest cases out there. With our episodes, you may hit a range of emotions, laughing, horror, anger, and even some tears depending on the case, but we promise we keep it fun. Tara, that's me, is the self-proclaimed overachiever, delving deep into the cases to uncover as many facts as possible, and Mara sprinkles in the razzle-dazzle with her wit and humor. There is something for everyone with us. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and just about anywhere you listen to your podcasts. You can also follow us on our socials. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Give us a listen and tell your friends. We hope to see you there. Until next time. Toodaloo! Toodaloo!
Okay, so it went up about 20 feet up into the air, and then they stood up there in the trees for a while, and then they went out. And then the walkie-talkie started to light up. We're seeing lights down here, and no, we're seeing lights over here. So we were hundreds of yards apart from each other, but now these lights were coming around the periphery of where we were investigating, and before long they were actually in our paths, to the point that one came up about the size of a basketball when it was orange. It came up to one of the investigators close enough that he could touch it. But whenever he reached out to touch it, it disappeared. And I asked him, I said, what would have happened if you would have touched it? And his eyes got kind of big, because you really don't know. And, I start, drawing parallels to the past and connecting the dots. And I know that, in the Middle Ages, these would have been called fairy lights. These are the lights that you would see out on the moors or out in the swamps that would lead somebody astray if you continue to follow them. So whatever was going on was happening to all of us, but we were getting different senses of what's going on. So if you were a UFO researcher, you would have called these, UAPs, right? Because they were, seriously, unidentified, aerial phenomenon. If you were a ghost hunter, these are your classic orbs. You're having an interaction with ghostly phenomenon. And if you were in a religious setting, this would have been a religious experience. So it was one of these all-encompassing events that I really don't understand exactly what was going on. But the deeper I get into the Bigfoot mythos, and the deeper I get into UFOs and everything else, the Earth lights seem to be the common denominator that link all the dots together. Yeah. So one of my theories is that the Earth has, let me see how I can do this so it doesn't sound like hokey. So I believe that the Earth has energies to it. And I believe that some of those energies are intelligent and sentient. And if you would look at the famous alchemists, they would have said the same thing. So whenever we get into the world of like the Fae and the Goblin universe, and the idea that there is something out there that has an intelligence and it's part of this world, but it's not us, that can make us very unsteady. But these kind of uncanny lights will do this to you. So it's my theory that these lights are indeed intelligent, and they are also able to somehow work within your mind that you're seeing something that's not there. So instead of thinking there's a Bigfoot out there, and a Dogman out there, and a Thunderbird, and all these other kind of things, I think it's more logical to think that there's an energy out there that's able to project itself into your mind to allow you to think that you're seeing something like that.
That's that's a super intriguing thought. I've thought kind of like on the same lengths of that, just not exactly that, but
Sure.
I've always thought there was definitely some kind of energies, but that can manipulate us into seeing different things. But I didn't think of it in going that far. But what I was like thinking of it was like when L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons were out in the desert and they were seeing angels or something like that, and Crowley saw aliens because he didn't believe in angels.
That's right.
And
That's
then
right.
there's somebody else seeing demons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just it's an interesting thought. But I definitely want to get into your thoughts on the Fey realm too, because I don't know, did I tell you my mushroom people story?
Yes, but I think we need to share it on here.
Wait, so I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
Yeah, I do remember your mushroom story, but I think you need to share it on here so people can hear it.
Okay, yeah, well, because I have shared it a few times on here, but I'll share it again just for a refresher for you and the listeners. But so my sister and I was 10, she was 9, and we used to go out into the woods and pretend that we were hunting aliens or monsters or of some kind, and there was a light dusting of snow, and we saw squirrel tracks, and we were like, "Oh, look, aliens!" And we were like, "Look at these feet. Why is it three? There's three prongs," and we're pretending, that we're walking and we're looking around. And oh, by the way, I was wearing glasses at the time too. I wore glasses when I was a kid, and so we're approaching this creek, and then it was like I just walked through like almost like a dream kind of thing. Like my eye, there was just a blue tint that went over my eyes real quick, and then right in front of me, about 10, 15 feet, maybe 20 feet, in that area, 10 to 20, there was a village of mushroom people stoking a fire. It was a fire in the center of the village, and they were just throwing like little twigs, and they were only like 3 inches tall, and looked like mushrooms. They didn't look like people that resembled mushrooms or anything like that. They were just like literal mushrooms with no faces or anything. They did have like these little like nubbies for arms or whatever for to carry the sticks, but that was like pretty much it. And they kind of looked like, they were like waddling, or maybe even they might have even been just kind of like gravitating across the or hovering through the ground. But there was like little huts and stuff made out of mushrooms, and I get tapped on the back of my head and my glasses fall off. And now this tap on the back of my head didn't hurt or anything. But obviously there was enough force to just like push my head forward, and my glasses fell off. And then there was a mushroom sitting on my shoulder, and I just like looked at it, and telepathically in my mind it said, you don't need those. And I was like, my glasses? And it goes, yes. And I'm sitting there staring at it like this, and then just like that, it's gone, and my sister's standing there. And my sister's like, what's wrong? I was like, I lost my glasses. So I needed to find my glasses. So I get down on my hands and knees, and I'm looking through the leaves and the snow, And my sister comes over and she's like, "Where are they? Where are they?" And I was like, I don't know. They fell off my face. I can't see them. That's why I'm asking you to help, you know? And then you just hear, and I was like, "Oh no." And she's like, "Whoops." And she stepped on my glasses. I ran home. So like instantly, like what I just saw just went to the back of my head because I panicked about my glasses. And I ran home and my mom was like, "I'm not going to get you glasses
You broke them.
because we have an appointment in like a week or two, and I don't want to get you a new pair and then have to get you another pair right after because you needed a new prescription." So I was like, "All right, fine." So I went 2 weeks or so without glasses, and then we went and got my eyes checked, and then my doctor just kind of looks at me and looks at the paperwork, and he's like, "You don't need glasses." And I was like, "What?" And my mom's like, "Oh, cool. So the glasses helped." And he goes, "I guess. I mean, maybe wear them for like TV and reading, but other than that, you know," he's like, "You don't need them." So, and I haven't wore glasses ever since.
Wow. Well, that as you know, remarkable as that story sounds, and it truly is, in the annals of the paranormal, that isn't the only case. Whenever people are confronted with something, there's a famous UFO case that involved interaction with something called the Veggie Man, which was basically a walking, talking stick that a child encountered out in the woods, and it had this kind of Venus flytrap kind of hand that opened up, and it put its hand on the kid's shoulder and started to draw blood from the child as a form of nourishment. And in another story that I heard, someone was out walking in the woods and they came to an opening and a stick popped up. It grew arms and legs. It took off and running, and whenever it got near the stream, it just became a stick and threw itself into the water and was washed downstream, never to be seen again. So the idea that the world around you becomes alive is common in alien folklore and, of course, in fairy folklore as well too, because the idea that all the earth, there's animism everywhere. Everything in nature has in embodying intelligence, a spirit to it. That's also very Native American, and you can see it in cultures around the world. It was the basis for shamanism, and I think that we as human beings have not only taken for granted the world around us, but we have domesticated the world around us to the point that we don't see anything magical anymore. It's a commodity. It's something at our disposal. We can destroy it or we can keep it. It's it's at our whim. But the idea that if you had a garden, that a fairy spirit takes care of it, that's commonplace. The idea in alchemy that if you want to learn how to take a base metal and transform it or transmute it into a precious metal, you have to know the spirits that preside in those particular elements in order to negotiate with them, right? So I think that we've lost all that behind us. Although if you think about it now, Paracelsus, a famous alchemist, and he really relied on understanding the intelligences that were imbued within the natural world. So much so that he became the father of mineralogy. He not only named the creature gnome, he gave the gnome its name, but he also named the mineral zinc. So this guy knew what he was doing. He wasn't a crackpot, but he saw the world from a very different perspective than we do. So we take zinc today, thankfully, because of Paracelsus, because he thought that everything in this world could have a benefit for us. And I do believe that wholeheartedly, and we're kind of going full circle here as well, too. I think that nature is basically a pretty perfect terrarium in a way, right? So we're all living here together. It rains down on us. We get our food from here. We can get our medicine from here. Everything is good in the terrarium until we start messing around with it, right? If we would just let it go, everything would be awesome. But then we start saying, well, I don't like this over here, so let's cut it down. Or, this water is getting in our way, let's divert it or let's drain it. And whenever those things start happening, I think the beneficial elements that are resident within our environment we destroy them. Look at the rainforest down in South America. We've probably destroyed so many cures that we couldn't even fathom about what's going on. But I also believe in the idea of the Gaia theory, that the world itself is a living organism. And I think that when we get to the crux of everything, whenever we talk about these earth lights or we talk about these earth energies, those are simply manifestations of the earth itself, and the earth cannot communicate with us verbally, and it cannot communicate with us in a physical form. So what better way than to manifest itself in some sort of physical form through these earth lights that we perceive as such and such a creature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you ever heard of this at all, but there was this gigantic underwater mushroom off the coast of Japan, I believe, and they were drilling through it for oil because they knew that there was oil underneath it, and then it just slid off a piece of it and it created a tsunami, and they were like, "Oh, maybe we shouldn't drill into this."
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't do this. That's right. Also, there was a bit of a disturbance in a lot of theoretical researchers whenever COVID happened, because it was believed that it was produced by the Earth itself to get rid of an invasive organism, and that invasive organism, of course, was us. So if you look through history, every now and then there will be these plagues that come around, and it may indeed be the earth way of saying, hey, there's too many of you, you're causing too much difficulty. It's kind of like if a dog had fleas, you're going to do everything in your power to scratch those fleas away. And if the earth has a defense mechanism, the way it would defend itself is through, viruses and things like that. So it's a very plausible assumption that what we are doing is unleashing dreadful things onto ourselves, because we don't experience these kind of dreadful things unless we start diving deep into forests or start exploring things where we shouldn't go, and that's been around for a while. Even the Epic of Gilgamesh, if you want to look at one of the first Bigfoot characters in literature, there's a character in there called Enkidu, and we experience another one of these bipedal creatures whenever our characters go into the cedars of Lebanon and start cutting down the forest. Then, as a defense, this other creature comes out to kind of shoo them away, and like any good human being would do, they subsequently kill that creature. Probably the last of its kind. So we see throughout history, and we see throughout literature and even art, these kind of moral tales, morality tales about what you should do if you encounter something that is miraculous, and then what you do whenever you encounter something that's trying to defend that miracle. Yeah.
Yes.
First,
Yeah.
Gilgamesh found the elixir to life, right? The flower of immortality, and as he held it in his hand, a sea creature comes out of the ocean, grabs it, and disappears back under the waves, never to be seen again. So, there's monsters in it, sure, things that go bump in the night, possibly a reference to a UFO encounter, but at the end of the day, it's basically one human being who is confronting the paranormal, and he screws it up.
Yeah. And to touch base on what you were saying about the earth defending itself, it kind of if you believe in conspiracies at all, with the symbolism that they put in Hollywood movies and stuff like that, like The Happening. I don't know if you recall that
Oh
movie at
yeah,
all with Mark
oh
Wahlberg
yeah.
and John Leguizamo. The earth defended itself, and annihilated a good population of us. And honestly, I do feel like we are a burden to the earth, to be honest. And
I do
there's
too.
times where I'm not 100%. We were like made of this. I don't know if we're originally from here. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. I do. Oh, I do. There's so many different theories out there. I mean, look, I think some of them are crackpot until you start really delving deep into them and say, wait a second, this might make sense. So yeah, whatever the case may be, this Earth is a great, wondrous, miraculous place
Yeah.
to live on.
Mm-hmm.
But if we do not treat it with respect, it's going to turn on us eventually.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. I mean, we're ravishing it left and right. There's buildings going up friggin' almost everywhere. There's trails and stuff that used to be, you know, nothing but woods that you could walk in, and now the trails are even gone now and stuff like that, and they're filling in swamps and building houses, and they're starting to develop the Huckamuck Swamp actually in Massachusetts.
I was
Um,
just at the Bridgewater Triangle over the summer, and I was surprised because it's in a town, right? At one
yeah.
time, it was, a barren, dismal place, and now you go, get a hamburger at the McDonald's or go. There's a high school in there, so even that place that was considered sacred by the Native Americans is just nothing more than urban sprawl.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so strange. I mean, I
It
get
is.
that we're multiplying and
Mm.
and everything, but like I don't know. It's just it's it's just I would like to see I prefer nature over urbanism
I
and
do
all
too.
that. So,
And then what happens if you live in the wrong community, like the community I live in? We are micromanaged. What kind of plants we can have. How many trees we can have in our yard. We're not allowed to have chickens.
yeah.
So people don't even want nature to come back. They want it to be very sterile.
Yeah, yeah, and then like the grass in their lawns isn't even actual like natural grass or anything like that
Exactly. Yeah,
either.
Bermuda grass and stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Yeah, it's
Uh,
sad. It really is because I was reading a paper the other day about the Scottish Highlands. And most all of the British Isles. At one time they were forested. If you could think about all those rolling highlands up in Scotland, those were all forested at one time. But astonishingly, they started to become deforested around the Bronze Age, which is incredible. So we're going back, probably from about the time of Stonehenge. We're going back to about 3200, which is, the end of the new Stone Age, and people are already deforesting that place. And it continued, the shipbuilding, the building of cathedrals, to the point that we get almost no woods at all anymore in a place that used to be densely packed. But that's not a modern thing. That started to happen in the Stone Age.
wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting. That's super interesting. It's also interesting that, you know, Stonehenge is like, oh no, I was thinking of Easter Island. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Oh no, hey, okay, so what you just gave there is the perfect example. Okay, so Easter Island at one time was a great place to live, right? It
Mhm.
was wooded. Everybody had enough food, enough water, everything like that, until they decided, you know what? We got to put up these moas, right? These moais, right? So
Uh,
they start digging up, and they need to have the wood for the rolling beams and stuff like that. And in a short time, and we're only talking about hundreds of years here. This isn't like thousands of years. In a very short time, maybe only 4 or 5 generations, the island is completely deforested, and there's no way for them to survive on the island anymore. So in their rapid expansion of ancestor worship in the form of the Moai, that word's confusing to me. They actually destroyed themselves.
oh wow.
Yeah.
Do you, do you think that's something that happened to Atlantis? Do you think Atlantis did something that destroyed themselves?
I think that we look at cultures uh, from out throughout human history. And it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be necessarily Atlantis. So we can
Right.
think that at one time, well, for instance, there's an era known as the Younger Dryas. It's one of my favorite eras. So
Uh-huh.
it was about 12,000 years ago. People were starting to settle at this point. We know this because if you go to places in the Caucasus Mountains, we see signs of monolithic architecture in which people could live. So we know
Yeah.
that people were settling down, right?
Mhm.
And there have been some archaeological evidence that there was, maybe possibly farming and animal husbandry of pigs. Rudimentary farming, definitely, with the cultivation of native species of fruits and vegetables. But then what happened was the climate changed, and it didn't change in hundreds of years. It changed in a decade. So you have people that were coming together and farming, and now there is a mini ice age that comes back, that comes upon us within 10 years, and that forces us now to become hunter gatherers again. We can no longer farm. We can no longer keep animals. So think about this for a second. Say, and this lasted for about 500 years. So say we're 100 years into this, right? And we have our spears in hands, and we're going, and we come across a village that's made out of rock. We've never seen anything like this before, because all of our lives, all we've known is following herds all the time and living in little makeshift lean-tos, right? But now we come to a site where we see stone structures, and they might only be a century old, but we wonder what kind of civilization was here, right? Who built these things? Were they giants? Because these are huge rocks. So then our imagination takes over and thinks, well, there was something else out there before we were. And the truth was, there were things out there before that happened. We know by looking at, at cave paintings and everything, that this time, before the Younger Dryas came about, it was artistically rich. And we know that we were, as human beings, we were getting rather ready to bring about civilization. And then we're so reliant on the natural world that this drove us back into chaos. But in my opinion, whenever we talk about ancient civilizations, it's a folk memory of these first attempts at civilization that was lost to our memory because of a mini ice age.
Okay. All right. So a mini ice age
Mhm.
in between, like right before the Bronze Era. Is that what you're saying? Or
No, no, no. So this is going back. This is going back. So the ice age ended about 14,000 years ago. Okay.
okay.
The
I got
Younger
you. I got
Dryas
you.
starts up at 12,000 years ago. So we've been 2,000 years without ice. Then all of a
Uh,
sudden, nature says, not so quick. And it has a really brief reversal that lasts only about 500 years, where it gets really cold again, and then this little mini ice age ends, and then everything starts back up again.
do you think that that is a possibility of happening again? Like the
Oh,
Earth freeze?
absolutely. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. I think there's natural ebbs and flows in everything. And I think that one time that we will be confronted with the possibility of another ice age. They were talking about that ever since I've been a kid. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that the idea that the Earth goes through natural fluctuations is something to be looked at. And I think that it will happen again. And the other thing that could happen as well, too, and I don't like to be a doomsayer, but, even something as simple as a meteor, and I'm not talking about like some sort of disastrous extinction event. I'm talking about a meteor that's just fairly large, could really, if it hit us, it wouldn't necessarily destroy humanity on impact, but the after effects would be so devastating to us that we would really have to rethink about how we work as a human race.
Yeah. Yeah, we would. Armageddon.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, no, like, but no, there's so many stories of the possibility of that happening, and it's super interesting. And I think like what the dinosaurs are supposedly that happened, and then after the dinosaurs, that's when we had the ice age, or that little ice age there, and that's when we lost the woolly mammoth, and now they're trying to bring the woolly mammoth back. And then I
That's
heard
right. That's
also they
right.
might even try and bring the saber-toothed tiger back, and I was like, don't do that.
Yeah, that's right.
uh,
That's right. We know from Jurassic Park that these are not good ideas.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right. And but yeah, no, like, and there's something to the dinosaurs as well too that I was thinking. I don't know if you have any knowledge on that on it, but like they structured these animals, reptiles, and they said that they were reptiles. They don't even I don't even know what made them think that they were reptiles, whether it
Right.
was, because it's just bones, and it's not even all their bones. They just because a lot of it was just casting, and they,
Sure.
like
Yep.
kind of made up. You know what I mean?
I I agree 100%. So I was just reading a paper on this the other day as well too. The contention is now that crocodiles are related to the dinosaur,
Uh huh.
but not as if they're brother and sister or even necessarily cousin. It's that somewhere along the line they had a common ancestor, right? But
Yeah.
the new contention is this, that if you want to find a living dinosaur now, you have to look at the bird, right? Because the aves, that particular classification, is something in which the theropod dinosaurs would have grown into, right? So your T Rex, your Velociraptor, your Dromaeosaur, all that those kind of dinosaurs would eventually become our birds. And I think there is something to be said about that, right? So birds definitely are not reptiles, but if you look at their feet, they're very scaly. Not the scales like a lizard, but they have these kind of protective armor to them, right? And
Yeah.
they're very intelligent as well too. And if you watch a bird, especially like an ostrich or anything, they have that very deliberate kind of movement, but they seem to be able to reason with their environment as well too. So I think that if we would go back in time 65 million years ago, I think that we would see a world, and I hate the use of the word lizard as well too, because it makes you think of like a T-Rex dragging its tail along, going very slow. But I think that if we would go back 65 million years ago, we would see a world that was very quick and agile and very alive and colorful, And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, ever since I've been a kid, now, I'm 54 years old, and whenever I was a kid, it was believed that these dinosaurs dragged their tails, that the apatosaur had to be in water because its body size was too big for gravity or too difficult for gravity, so it would have to be buoyant in water all the time. All these great, and you can even see them in the movies at the time too. All these great ideas are now confounded. We see the dinosaur now as possibly even warm-blooded, right? And
Uh huh.
that is an amazing leap, and that happened in a very, very short time.
Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting. I always thought like, cause you know how the T-Rex or whatever, like in a lot of the like Velociraptors and stuff, their arms are like this. I often thought like, well, what if this is just the bone to start the wings? You know what I mean?
Perfect. Perfect. Yes, and then if you take that stance and you turn it backwards, you have a wing, right? You have a
Yeah.
wing. So we do know, because I'm lucky that I'm right outside of Pittsburgh, right? And
Yep.
Andrew Carnegie had a great love for dinosaurs. So in the museum here in my town, you can go and see the first dinosaur bones, right? The original dinosaurs in which they cast from. And I do know that whenever they started to put these things together, they wanted them to look like reptiles. So a couple of the dinosaurs, they actually had to break the bone in order to have that dragging of the tail along. Now, whenever I was a kid, you would go there, the Brontosaurus was set up and its tail was on the ground. The T Rex was completely upright and its tail was on the ground as well too. And then 35 years later, now the display is very lively. The T-Rex is like making a sharp turn as it's coming after a baby apatosaur, and its tail is in the air and it's lively, and it has a bit of a flourish to it. But I think that whenever we talk about science, and that was a good point that you brought up, that it constantly changes. Every generation is going to research something differently, and there's going to be new things that are going to be uncovered. So I think that when we put things into a book, we automatically think, well, that's now gospel truth, when indeed it's not. It's going to be there and it's going to be true only for a generation or two, especially whenever it comes to science, because things change so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And science is always adapting to the world around it, you know what I mean? And there's science is meant to be questioned, so everything that they do, they're still questioning all the stuff that they do. Like That's like with the dinosaurs, you know, they came up with what we see in Jurassic Park, but then they continued to investigate, and then they're like, well, what about this? And what about, like you're saying, with each generation, you know, they're going to research it a little bit differently. So,
That's right.
um,
That's right.
yeah, I think birds are more accurate in my eyes.
Mm,
You know, the more that I've looked into things, and now I don't do like deep research on a lot of things. I'm more of like a conspiracy person, so like when it comes to a conspiracy, I'll go right into it on that.
right.
But you know, the dinosaur thing is kind of sort of, people, you might be perceived as a conspiracy, like they just want us to think that they were
No,
lizards, you
sure.
know, whoever they are.
Mm,
But there was also talk about a lot of these bones that are being found for dinosaurs may have been, you know, giants, like
mm.
humanoid giants, and
Absolutely,
that
yeah.
actually that they found giant bones supposedly, and they're in the basement of the Smithsonian.
Mm,
And the
mm,
Smithsonian's hiding them supposedly. I don't know that for a fact. It's just hearsay on my
mm.
part. Um,
Well,
but
we can
yeah,
talk about that for briefly because I think it's going to be pertinent to our conversation. So we talk about science, right? We talk about it as if it was monolithic, right? It's etched in stone. It can change, okay?
yeah.
So I've always been fascinated by giants, and not only have I been fascinated by giants, but in my area around here in Western Pennsylvania, giant bones have actually been uncovered.
Oh, really?
A little less than 100 miles away from me is Moundsville, West Virginia, and they claim that whenever they first excavated the Grave Creek mound, they found a giantess in there about 12 feet tall, right? And there was a tablet that was written of a foreign language that they couldn't decipher, and now it's been lost to time, right? It just vanished.
Ah,
But I know whenever I was reading the data, what usually happens is this: a farmer plowing a field comes across a mound, excavates it, plows it over basically. No archaeology whatsoever, but you need to have room to graze and you have to have room to grow crops. So archaeology wasn't in their best interest, so they would just basically tear it apart. But as they tore it apart, lo and behold, they were finding these giant bones in there. So this is usually what happens. The newspaper reports that, Farmer John has excavated a giant, because these are small towns, right? Everybody would know everybody else, okay?
Hi, I'm Natasha with Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracy. Embark with me on a journey to uncover the details involving cryptids, haunted houses, and unsolved mysteries. Get ready to awaken your curiosity and explore the unknown. Ask questions, and together, let's unravel the secrets behind the legends.
And usually within that first article, they would say, we're reaching out to the university that's nearest, right? So the nearest university, maybe, 80 miles away or whatever. So a couple days later, the university, in the newspaper, the university is in town, right? They're examining the bones of giants. And the university claims that this is not in their wheelhouse, so they send out for the big guys at the Smithsonian. And then the newspaper article will say, town anxiously awaits for Smithsonian arrival. And we guess the Smithsonian arrives because guess what? Nothing else is ever written about it, right? It vanishes through history. So what the assumption is that these bones are now taken and they're stored someplace in the Smithsonian. So we have to ask ourselves why. Why would a organization, an institution dedicated to science hide such evidence, right? Well, there's a couple of things. Number one is something called manifest destiny, right? That we as settlers here in America, by God's will, was to come here and claim this great nation for ourselves and take it away from the savages. That's one thing. But gosh darn it almighty, there's evidence now that these weren't savages, these were like an advanced culture. And not only they were advanced, but the people that are living here, well, gosh darn it, that might be their ancestors. So maybe we shouldn't take this land from these people. That's one way to look at it, okay? The other way to look at this as well too, these discoveries of these bones happen very close to the time that Darwin's Origin of Species comes out. So now we understand the theory of evolution, that it was a progression, right? That we came from apes or a common ape-like ancestor, and here we are today through millions of years of evolution. But these giants now, wait a second now, let's pull back on the reins, because the Bible mentions giants, and if the Bible mentions giants, then maybe the Bible now is true, and Darwin maybe is not true. So in order to, again, your conspiracy theory, in order to control reality, the forces that are out there have now made it reality because they're hiding anything contradictory to what we've been taught.
Well, yeah, that is an interesting way to look at it too. Thank you for that. That's
Oh, yeah.
super interesting.
Yeah. You ask good questions, sir. You ask good questions.
I suck at asking questions. No, I'm just
No,
kidding.
you're actually this is great. I'm having a great deal of fun.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun, man. I'm learning a lot, actually, and I really appreciate it, man. I was not expecting to go down this route, but I'm so like I'm here for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We'll go down
So
all kinds of rabbit holes.
yeah, man, I've been down a few, and I don't- I guess I would be called awake now, I guess in a way. But I feel like the paranormal is like the opening door for a lot of this stuff. For like,
I,
so paranormal, you either you experience it or you're just fascinated by the topic. You start researching it, or you've experienced it, so you start researching it, and then you're like, oh, Bigfoot,
that's right.
Dogman, cryptids, oh, fairies,
Yep. That's right.
goblins,
That's right.
aliens, oh, UFOs, and then oh, the
Yeah.
government's lying to us.
That's right. There definitely is disinformation out there as well too, because all these things that we talk about today, there's probably some of your listeners that are chuckling about it, right? They're having a little bit of a laugh because we have been indoctrinated to laugh at fairies and to laugh at giants and things because it doesn't make any sense. But guess what? Nature doesn't make any sense either, guys. It doesn't. Nature is a complicated, chaotic world where platypuses exist and beetles can fly, and they shouldn't be able to fly because they're far too heavy and their wings are too small. And bees shouldn't be able to communicate with other bees, and we know that trees talk to each other through energies and vibrations and such. So all this stuff is going on. So why couldn't giants of one time been on the earth? And why can't there be fairies out there in our gardens? Why can't this other stuff be out there? And I say it can be out there.
Yes, I do too. And by the way, platypuses, they used to be a cryptid.
Oh, yeah.
There used to be sightings of them, and everybody's
That's
like,
right.
pish posh. And then
That's
they're
right.
like, hey, look at this thing.
That's right. Hey, it's like, hey, check this out. I saw a creature down. Now, bear with me. It looks kind of like a beaver. It has a beaver tail, but it also has like a bill of a duck. Now, hang on a second. Also, it lays eggs, but it also produces milk as well. And the male version of this thing is poisonous. Now, who believes that stuff? Nobody believes that stuff. That's made up. That's God giving a little bit of laugh and saying, explain this away.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man, that's funny. But also, real quick too, before we get too far away from it, but I wanted to, do you recall I think it was in Canada, the guy that, I think it was in Canada. I don't know. But the guy he was filmed a giant up on this ridge,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then he tried going up the mountain, and there was like um some kind of police or something undercover or something like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
unmarked car. Yeah. Do
That's right.
you
That's right.
do you
I think there was one in Mexico and one in Canada as well. Yeah.
okay. Do
Yeah.
you do you think there's some validity to those videos that were put out?
I don't think personally there's any validity to these because it was so out in the open. I think there would
Yeah.
have been more than one photograph, right? So I think there's any validity, but just because it was hoaxed, that shows the interest in general of what these things are, right? And the reason why
Yeah.
we can have a discussion whether it's real or not is because we question in our mind, well, can this happen, right? Because I think we all want it to happen, but I'm just saying if a giant shows up on a hill near a freeway, that more people than just one person, everybody has a supercomputer in their pocket right now, you know, and a lot of
Yeah.
private people have drones, and I just assume that people would be getting pictures of these things.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And with that, a lot of people, because of drones and our technology now. Honestly, my phone, it's not like the newest and up to date, but I try and take pictures of the moon sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't look as fantastic as it does with the naked eye. Um, so I wonder if like these like blurry pictures and stuff has something to do with it, because you can see it and it looks phenomenal, but because it's so far away, the camera just doesn't get it that great.
That's right.
And
No,
with
no, yeah.
that, yeah, and then with like in drones and stuff, people are like, well, there's drones, and if Bigfoot was really real, it would be found by now. But do you believe that are you of the belief that Bigfoot or these kind of creatures like that could be possibly be traveling from like realm to realm, like interdimensional travel?
Well, I will tell you, if Bigfoot does exist, that's the only way for it to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think in our modern world that we would be able to have a 8 foot tall bipedal creature living in close proximity to Walmart because there would be signs of it everywhere. In order
Uh-huh.
for it to not to leave behind any signs, and we're talking about like, for instance, I'm not much of a hunter, but I've always been fascinated by like feral pigs, right?
Uh-huh.
And you know they're a menace in Texas and Florida and stuff like that. And a pig, you know, a couple 100 pound pig, will devastate an area completely. There's no doubt in your mind that there was a pig in that area. Now, granted, Bigfoot would not be working in the same type of environment or occupying the same type of niche as a pig, but if there was a Bigfoot in the area, you would know it because it would leave signs, it would move, it would definitely one day slip up and somebody would see it. So, in order for these things to be seen, really since the beginning of humanity, in order for them to be seen, they have to occupy a portion of our world at at different times. I do think that there's an interdimensionality to them. Yes, there has to be.
Yeah. And I think it's funny how like different cultures throughout, history and across the world have these, Bigfoot creatures of some kind. Like I know the tribes up here in Maine called Bigfoot, it's a Bigfoot creature, and it was called a Kikiwaka, you know. Shit, that the Vermont has another name for it. New York tribes have another name for it. And
Right.
then indigenous tribes over in the European area, the Pacific Islanders have one, and stuff like that. And I the fact that there's all these stories, there's cave drawings of them and stuff like that. It just, I feel like there's some, if it's not, if they don't exist now, they did at one time.
Yeah, without a doubt, 100%. And they were known intimately by people that were intrinsically tied to the land itself. So they were just another creature out there. But of course, different Native American cultures, different places around the world view them as something, you know, a different. They're much more spiritual in First Nation accounts,
Mhm.
straddling the line more towards the realm of, you know, the divine rather than the mundane. So yeah, there's so many different accounts about these creatures. The Pacific Islanders, you have the Menehune. In Hawaii, you have the Hobbit. You know over there in Indonesia. So yeah, different names to different places. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. It's super interesting. And because I started looking into like places that had a Sasquatch type of creature, and
Mm.
they're everywhere.
They
I
are.
mean, just
Mm.
different names. That I mean,
Mm.
really. And
Mm.
Bigfoot wasn't really coined until settlement here, like colonists came
Right.
to America. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we
And
appropriated the language, right? Sure. Yeah, we even
yeah, yeah,
stole
yeah.
that. We even stole the name of Bigfoot. So.
Yeah. And Canada refuses to call it Bigfoot. They call it
Mhm.
Sasquatch. They're like, it's not
Absolutely.
Bigfoot, it's Sasquatch, eh?
Oh, I love the Canadians.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Um, Now, I did want to ask about your uh first ever paranormal investigation. I wanted
Okay.
to get into that if you didn't mind.
No, 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 that's fine. It probably was with my mother whenever I was about, I must have been 7 or 8 years old. So we would listen to Stan Gordon, who's kind of like the godfather of the paranormal and ufology over here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
We would listen to him on the radio. He would come on the radio about once a month out of KDKA in Pittsburgh, and he would talk about sightings that were around the area, whether it's Bigfoot or UFO. And usually on Saturday night, my mother would load my brother and I up in the car, and we would go to the places he described on his radio show, and we would do our own investigation, see if we could find anything. We never did or anything, but it instilled in me that there was things out there, and not only was there things out there, but it might be possible for me to uncover one of these mysteries. So I've had that same kind of, like I said, that wanderlust in me ever since. So I've investigated Bigfoot, I've investigated UFOs and Dogman and hauntings. So to just pinpoint one, that would be a little bit difficult. I think, oddly, in most of my adult life, I've done far more paranormal investigations in the field of hauntings than I have had cryptids, even though cryptids are my favorite subject. But
No,
people
that's
really, I
perfect.
mean, people that are going to say we want you usually want you in a haunted location someplace, and that's fine with me too, because I have a master's degree in history, so I have no problem taking people through historical facts and letting spirits teach them, and ghosts I give messages. I have no problem doing that.
Nice. Now, so I saw this video. I think it might have been today. It was either yesterday or today, where this gentleman was talking about how him and his wife go to haunted places, and they set up, they do like they sleep over or whatever for the night and stuff, and they set up cameras and stuff. And he goes, he ended up talking to a spirit at this one location. I don't think he disclosed the location. So I don't know like what exact validity to it is, but this is his story. He says that he's communicating with a spirit, and they're asking each other questions, where the spirit's asking him questions. And it turns out that the spirit that he was talking to thought that he was a ghost. And he's
Yes.
like, well, wait, what year is it where you were at? No, the spirit asked him what year it was, and he said it's 2023. And the spirit goes, well, it's 2082 here. And he's like, "Well, that doesn't make any sense if you're a spirit." And then he asked the spirit his name, and he told him his name. Or no, he asked him what his great grandfather's or his grandfather's name was, and he told him his grandfather's name, and he looks up his grandfather on Facebook. And lo and behold, it's the exact name, finds the guy, the exact town that he said that he was from, and everything. And so well, I already feel like shadow people themselves. I
Mhm.
feel like they're people that they are either people ahead of us and behind us, and that we're all looking at each other like ghosts. So like when shadow people are looking at us, a lot of times they're looking at us the same way that we're looking at them, I feel like.
I agree. I agree.
Do
I
you?
agree.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
I think
right.
that when we go on a ghostly investigation, because time is not, it's not linear, right? Time is
Right.
kind of like a web, and it's also manufactured because time really doesn't exist. So to think that a ghost investigator is actually the thing that goes bump in the night to a future person is really not beyond the realm of possibility. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So you
super
could,
interesting.
yeah, you could be in there saying, hey, would you knock or whatever the case may be. And there's somebody in the future that's sitting down reading a newspaper and getting the crap scared out of them because they see a shadow moving in their room.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really when I saw that video I was like, "Oh, that's a interesting way to think about it too." Like
It is.
'cause I already kind of think that way about shadow people just in particularly, but like any like just regular run of the mill investigation and you're talking to somebody from the future, like that's wild.
That's right.
Like I would have
That's
been
right.
asking some interesting questions once I realized that. I
Oh,
feel like I yeah, right, exactly. Exactly. Um, but yeah, so have you ever seen an apparition of any kind? Okay.
there.
Yep, I
Okay,
got you.
good, good. Yeah, we're back. Sorry about
Okay.
that. I don't know what it is. I really don't know what happens on my side.
Yeah, it keeps saying it said that said it earlier and it said it just now that you're um uploading at a higher frequency, like you're a higher quality.
Oh, I see. So it's trying to
So
play
I
catch up.
wonder if I'm a low quality.
It might be the
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be the case. Also, this isn't live, right? You're editing this, correct? You're going to edit this?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah, I'll be
Yeah,
editing this.
I've got about another 10 minutes before I have to go pick up my daughter at work. So I don't know how you want to do this. I apologize for that, but I knew that I could get
No, it's okay.
a good hour in.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Well, you know what? Why don't I just, I'll edit out this part that we just went through,
Perfect.
and I'll just ask you this
Okay,
question.
great.
I'll ask you a closing question. So, with everything that you're doing, with working with small town monsters, yep. Can you hear me? Nope.
Now I
What's
can.
happening? All right,
Got
all
it.
right,
You're good.
all right. All right, let's try and get this in before it shuts off again. All right,
Okay.
so closing questions. If you don't mind, with everything that you're doing with small town monsters, your investigations, you're writing all your books and
Yes.
whatnot. Are you finding fulfillment in your life?
Oh, and you know what? That's a great question, as a matter of fact. Um, I think that every you. And I'm glad you brought that up because I have an older daughter right now who just moved out. I have my youngest daughter is going to be graduating from high school, and she'll be moving out. So I can see the father part of me, that role of a father, slowly disappearing. Right, but I am still happy
Huh.
because at the end of the day, even though I've been successful in raising kids that are now going out on their own, I still have to find some sort of meaning in my world, and I am finding it through working with small town monsters, talking to people like you, and the monsters that I hunt aren't so terrifying anymore. They're more of my friends. I find an uneasy familiarity with them now. And I think that as I go longer in life and older into life, I think that I'll be quite content to read my books and to go out into the woods on a nice summer evening with the crickets playing their little symphony and the spring peepers, forming a chorus. And I think I'll be just fine looking for my little monsters and things that go bump of the night.
Nice. I like that answer. That's a good one.
Thank you.
Well, Ron, it was absolutely pleasure talking to you. And if you don't mind, one more time, letting everybody know who you are and where they can find you and find all your work.
All right, great. It was my pleasure, as a matter of fact, of being on here tonight. So my name is Ron Murphy. Again, Ronald L. Murphy Jr., Jr., at yahoo.com. That is my direct email address. Then you can find me on Amazon, which is Ronald L. Murphy Jr. as well, too. I have about 25 books out now. And as a matter of fact, Walmart has picked up my books, several of my books, so you can buy my On Vampires and On Lake Monsters and a couple other of my books at Walmart now. But if you're looking for Bigfoot and UFOs or mermaids or any of those things, go ahead on to Amazon, and I think that I'll be able to help you there.
Nice. Awesome. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed listening to Ron school us on some things. And if you like today's episode, please like, follow, share, and subscribe. Do all those things and leave a 5-star rating. Well, it doesn't have to be 5 stars, whatever you think I deserve, or you don't even have to do it. That's totally okay with me. I'm just happy that you're here listening and listening to Ron speak his wisdom. So anyways, I hope you guys all have a good night, a good day, whatever time you decided to listen to this. And remember, question everything and stay weird.
Yeah, 5-star rating, my friend. 5-star rating.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.
Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky. When the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day, make a wish.